everybody. Welcome to episode 27 of Outside the Box, a little podcast thing that we've thrown together to talk to a variety of people about a variety of things, mysterious, unusual, quirky, eccentric, mad, paranormal. For this episode, I'm meeting an old friend of mine, Clint Lawson. Clint Lawson is a well-seasoned paranormal investigator. He's been in the scene for decades. He's now created and runs a thing called the Spectral Tourist. And he's out there doing a great job promoting paranormal tourism around the country. He's doing amazing things. So I wanted to chat with him about how he got into it, what he's doing, what he's got coming up. And we've also got another special guest coming in too, another person who's worked quite closely with Clint through the years. And so I'm looking forward to having a bit of a reminisce about the old times. So I look forward to that later on in the talk. So strap yourself in and let's go talk to Clint.
Are you there?
Clint Lawson, hello. Good to see you, man.
Hey, pal, how you going?
Not too bad, not too bad. I've been wanting to get you on this here platform for quite a while to discuss a few things that you've been up to, because I've known you for quite a few years now, and you go way back. You and I don't go way, way, way back, but you go way, way, way back within the paranormal field. And your team back in the day, in the early days, before I started the Haunted Auckland and Paranormal New Zealand, alongside James Gilberd's Strange Occurrences Society, were a bit of an influence for me to starting up my own team. So you guys were the first sort of team that I sort of started following and started hearing about back in the day. So a bit of an influence there. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'm guessing you're like me, and in that time that you've been doing this, you've grown a bit and you've learned a lot and you've experienced a bit, and you've evolved and adapted and grown as a person. I take it.
I'd like to think so. Depends who you speak to. Opinions vary, apparently.
Yeah. So I want to know. I always ask this because I want to know. I want to know what kickstarted all this for you. Was this something from childhood, or was this something that you got into as a teen or an adult? I mean, when did you start getting into this whole paranormal thing?
Growing up, I was your typical loner. While all the other kids were playing rugby and all this sort of stuff, I was the guy that was in the library because I had a natural distrust of a lot of people and I just liked being in my own world. So I used to go to the library at the lunch times and after school when I could and that sort of thing, and read anything that I got. One of the first books that I got my hands on was, I think, by Robin Jenkins, and it was a Ghosts of New Zealand. Very, very, very old book, and one of the greatest pieces of New Zealand literature to be written at that time. And I just read, and then I got into everything from UFOs, UAPs now, cryptids, things like Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot were always something that grabbed my imagination. And I would spend hours just reading these books. Then when things like Amityville came out, when the Amityville horror movie came out, I got into researching a little bit behind that, to the point where I was actually starting to write my own book at like the age of about 12 on it, which was quite impressive. My writing hasn't changed much. It's still the same. I can't read it. But one of the best pieces that I've ever gotten is I got an audio tape of Borley Rectory. And it was a narrated story. And it always grabbed my interest. And I think I must have listened to it hundreds of times. I think I listened to it until I wore the tape out, to be quite honest. But at the end of it, there was actual recordings from inside what was the old Borley Rectory before it caught fire. And I absolutely loved it. And so from there, I just looked for more and more and more. And I just couldn't stop. And I just read it and watched it and spoke to people until I had no one else to talk to about it. I never actually had my own real experience until I was about 16, when my grandmother died, and we had all the family around at the house, and I was actually in my bedroom, and this big bright pillar, to be cliche, of light showed up at the end of my bed. I couldn't see anything in it. I just saw this light, and it was there for about 5 seconds, and then it just disappeared like that.
Wow, that's interesting.
No trumpet sound or anything like that. My family has, over many years, members of my family have had experiences of one kind or another. I had an uncle who was a big influence on me growing up, who had a dog, and he swore that every time he got to the car after the dog died, he could hear it running across the back seat. And this was a man that wasn't really open to telling stories or anything to people. So for him to come out and say that was pretty impressive.
Hmm. Hmm. It's
Yeah.
great.
So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Nothing earth-shattering, just a loner who found something that he wanted to keep being different on. And I did.
Sounds a lot like me, actually. Yep, that's right. Very good.
Yeah, we get around.
That's right, we do. Us loners. Actually, aren't serial killers loners as well? They're kind of the lonely ones.
No, there's been a couple that have teamed up over the years. Not many, but it has happened. But we'll keep that to ourselves. Yeah.
Phoenix. Let's talk about Phoenix, your paranormal group. When did you start that up? Was it the first one you did? Was it the first team?
Yes. Yep. 2008 it was. I was working for a printing company based in Fielding, and I was cold calling in the Hawke's Bay. I love the Hawke's Bay, and so I managed to actually get my territory stretched over to that end. And I heard an advertisement on the radio about the Napier prison and come and see it and come and see its ghosts and all this sort of thing. And I said, oh, that sounds right. So I rocked on up and had a talk to them about printing business cards and flyers and stuff. And I was talking to Marianne, who was one of the owners. And I said to Marianne, we're just joking one day. She says, I said, have you ever had an investigation here? She says, no. I says, why the hell not? And she says, well, why don't you organise one? So I did. So I jumped on the phone to Dave Clipson from Ghost Hunters.
Dave, yep.
Yep. And a gentleman by the name of Brad Scott, who was based in Wellington. And they both got together and got all the equipment and that sort of stuff lined up. I arranged some people to go and join up, and we ended up at the Napier prison. And that was a fantastic. The first investigation was a fantastic investigation. Not always. I think a lot of it was there was a lot happening, but I think a lot of what was actually going on was a little bit of hype because we had some TV cameras there and some TV personalities as well. So being something a little bit new in the area, but it took off. And I think from the Napier prison has been the site that I've actually investigated more than anything. I think I currently hold the record for about 23 to 24 investigations in the place. I know that you've had quite a few there as well, mate.
It's such an active place. I mean, I'm keen to get back there when they reopen again to the public. I mean, it's I mean, I've only had, how many times did we go? About maybe 3. I think it was 3 or something.
Yeah. And
one of them was a solo one, overnighter. And yeah, I was impressed. I was very skeptical about it, thinking, okay, it's just a tourist attraction. There'll be things set up, but no, it's pretty raw. They haven't really modified the place in any way. They haven't scrubbed it up and painted it and made it look really lovely for the tourists. They've kept it pretty raw.
That's part of the charm.
Yeah, they've kept it really raw and natural, and it's honest, and it's I like that. It's yeah, you can sort of feel the history, and you can see it, and you can smell it as well. You can smell the history.
Yes, yeah. The minute you step on the property, it's just like, wow. Yeah, it's surreal. The stories, Roland Edwards from Ormondville, who killed his family. Kerry Oppa, who they call it the eye killer. The eye eater, that's one. Sorry, it's been a while. Place has got so many stories and so much history, right down to one of the inmates called Basil, who owned Basil the cat.
That's right.
It was up there until just over the last couple of years, where he's passed away.
But he kept passing away and then coming back as a different incarnation of the last one, didn't he? He would keep coming back. He would disappear. And
well, at least he was consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
a bit of an anomaly himself, that cat.
Yeah. So it grew from there, and I started up working with Brad Scott for a couple of months, and he wanted Manawatu Paranormal started up. So that's when I started my own organisation. So when I actually investigated the Napier prison, first off, Phoenix wasn't actually there, but Phoenix was actually created about 2 months after that, which was really, really good. And we just took from there. Once we got off and had our own feet on the ground, nearly every place that I went into, people were interested in letting us in to take a look. It was great.
That's right.
Met a lot of good people. Had some really, really good experiences. Had some experiences that I wouldn't actually really want to repeat again if I could. But it was great. That was the life. That was the life.
Yeah. It's one of those roller coaster rides, isn't it? It's a scene. It's a field that has its ups and downs, and you get your goods and your bads, and you just got to roll with it and take it and just carry on, really, don't you?
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it's the final frontier. I mean, they say space is the final frontier, but we know what's going on out there, so we're exploring it there. But what happens after we go? Every religion has got its own beliefs. It is the final frontier of exploration, in my opinion, anyway.
Oh, it's a huge development, and when they do sort of find out whether there is an afterlife or not, or what's on the other side, I mean, it's going to be huge. It's going to change the world, and that's why I'm always often surprised at people these days who just will grab an app or a spirit box, and they'll go out there and go, oh yeah, I'm going to go to the cemetery now and talk to some spirits. It's like that they say it like it's no big deal, like it's just nothing. We're going to grab this app, this phone app, and go and talk to the dead. And I just have to process that, and it's like, well, think about it for a minute. You're actually talking about opening up your phone, opening up an app, and you have a direct line to the deceased where you can have conversations with the dead. Now, don't you think it's a pretty groundbreaking and world-changing development? And don't you think if it was real, that science would have latched onto that? Science would be really working with this, and we would be making huge strides in the field. We would be talking to the dead, would be learning about the future, the past, so much, interdimensional, communication. It's a huge deal, and people will just sort of casually just say, they'll rock up to their ghost tours or their cemeteries, and you get the enthusiasts out there that'll just pull out a ghost box or an app and just they're convinced that you're talking to the dead. It's a huge thing.
It is huge, but I see. I personally, I don't place a lot of faith in apps on your phone.
No.
There's too much going on in the background. If you've got a phone, you've got one app in it. There's nothing to say that app couldn't cross over with another one. I couldn't glitch, which could potentially record something that's not actually a spectral voice, for want of a better word. Apps are made by people who just want to make money off them. The real proof is, once again, in my opinion, is what we go out and what we see. When we take our EMF meters, when we take our cameras, when we take this out, that out, the stuff that is tried and true, REM pods and that sort of stuff, they are great, but they had to be tried in the field first. And there's a reason that they are big deals these days, and that is because they do work. On most occasions. These days, it's the teams seem to be getting younger and younger, and that's where the apps, in my opinion, seem to be coming into it in a big way, because they've watched something on TV, they've watched Ghost Hunters, they've watched The Kindred or something like this, and they think, oh look, well maybe we can use an app, and we'll go and see what we can get on here. And you can use an app, but the chances are you may not actually be catching anything legible. I'm not saying that they won't. Like I said, once again, I think that apps don't work, and that is my opinion, because I've never had any success with them. That's not to say that others haven't, but until someone shows me some very, very, very good evidence, I won't be putting my faith in apps anytime soon.
I mean, people just need to realize that these apps were created by somebody, and that those words and phrases that come up in the library were put in there by the app creator. They were put in there by somebody to appeal to the ghost hunting community, and that's what it's all about. That somebody put those words in there. They're not being spoken by some ghost. Somebody actually put this whole library of words and phrases in there. And of course, it's being marketed to the ghost hunting enthusiasts. So, of course, you're going to use appropriate words. You're going to use words that would appeal to the locations and ghost
Yes.
hunting and in general. So, um, I don't know. I think people are a little bit naive and they're not thinking. People are just getting a bit lazy. They're not thinking. They're not sort of. They'll go out and they'll spend hundreds of dollars on some gadget or an app even, and they'll run around communicating with the dead or believing that they
Yep.
are, and they don't really realize what they're doing or how it's actually working, the whole process. They're just trusting that it's
Mm.
actually doing what they were told it was doing.
They're listening to it, they're getting home, and then there's, did you hear that voice? The next thing, it's all over Facebook, and somebody's coming up, and it's, we were told, get out by this voice. And sometimes people hear what they want to hear.
That's right. It's good old pareidolia again, isn't it?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
You certainly can't fault the goal. Sometimes the execution needs a little bit of work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's look at now then. What you're doing this new this little project, this venture that you've got going now.
Spectral
Tourist,
tourism.
spectral
Yes.
tourism. That's a
Yep.
big new thing. It's getting quite popular these days. It's building and building. So
Yes.
how did this all get started for you?
In my company, my job is to create virtual reality tours for the tourism and the real estate industry and heritage buildings. And as you know, mate, there's been a number of places that I've investigated that are renowned for having paranormal activity in them. Lake House, the Pump House Theatre, Hawke's Bay Opera House, Napier Prison. Those are places that we scanned for the heritage side of it for the website. But I've been contacted by a couple of people from overseas saying, who remember me from Phoenix Paranormal and managed to track me down because I don't have that email address or anything anymore. So I'm flattered people are still tracking me down saying, yeah, where can we go for some really, really solid investigations if we were to come to New Zealand? And I thought, well, maybe a way to actually promote this is by going through and doing virtual tours of these scans and putting them online. That way, we put in the data points so that when people walk through a certain room, if whoever's walked in there has had an experience and they tap on it, it'll say this was experience, this happened in this room, this was experienced by X amount of people, blah blah blah. And since a lot of these places are still active and people are still investigating them, people contact me and say this is what's happened, and they give me more information. We can keep putting these data points in. I call it an evolving scan because effectively that's what it is.
Mm.
But it also allows people not just from our areas, but our areas from our country and that sort of thing, but from all around the world to take a look at it. I know that after we investigated the Napier prison and we were speaking with Anton Herrick, I think it was, down in Christchurch, he ended up getting in touch with Ghost Hunters International, and they came over and they did a show over here where they investigated the Napier prison. I thought it was a little bit sensationalized and there was a lot of heavy breathing and what was going on, and I'm thinking, if you really seen some of the stuff that we've experienced up there, you might be screaming a little bit more. And no offense to them, because they were a good team back in the day. I don't think they exist anymore. But the interest is there from a historical point of view and from a paranormal researcher's point of view as well. You imagine being able to walk through a building from the other side of the world and speak to investigators in that country and say, what else have you what have you experienced in there? Can we get in? We scanned the Hawke's Bay Opera. I scanned the Hawke's Bay Opera House, which is a home away from home from me. There's two places in this country that I absolutely adore when it comes to that. That's the Hawke's Bay Opera House and the Napier Prison. Both places are very, very dear to me, and I love them. Absolutely love them to bits. So going in and being able to scan them and then recollect instances that happened around there in various areas, it's just amazing. It's a next level investigating. So I can scan basically any building.
Brilliant. It's a fantastic idea and it's working really well. I mean, I've been so impressed. It's just the scans that you've done so far on some of my favorite locations, just brilliant. And just being able to walk through. And I've had people from, Scotland and the UK that follow us quite closely, and they've done it. And so you've got people in Scotland that can roam around these places via your scans, and it's just
Yeah.
fantastic. It opens New Zealand up to the world, and I think that's a good thing.
What had always been my dream, mate, is the fact that I've always wanted to get as many teams working together.
Mm.
No one's exclusive in any area. Nobody owns this particular place or that particular place. It's the relationships that we build with the people that live there, the people that own it, the people that work there. That's what gets us in the door. Our reputations, our honesty, our loyalty, that's what gets us in the door. That's what people respect. People want us to go in there and be straight up. And if we don't get anything on an investigation, be honest. And people listen. But creating these scans, as you see, we've got people in Scotland looking at them, which means people from all around can actually, said they're messaging you. They message each other, get information. And the more information, we could find somebody in Scotland who stayed at the Napier prison, who was an inmate or something like that, who experienced this. They might have a missing piece to a puzzle that we've been looking for. We held over 250 investigations within a 3-year period around New Zealand. That's just around the North Island. And a lot of those places, there has always been a missing piece to the puzzle. I've always thought that if this technology was available back then, it would have helped us a lot earlier.
Yeah, I agree. No, it's fantastic technology, and it's just it's quite compact too, isn't it? The sort of scanning
It is.
It's quite compact, so you can get into places, and it's not a big bulky setup, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at another scanner at the moment that is handheld. It allows me to do the same thing, but allows me to do it a lot faster, which allows me to cover bigger grounds. You imagine going through and doing the How Historic Village and actually being able to walk around the entire area with that in your hand and be able to have a scan in like an hour, 2 hours, and then join everything else into it. The technology just keeps on growing. It's not cheap technology, but I'll tell you what, I've made a living off it, so I'm not knocking it.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's amazing. I'm totally impressed, and it's been so amazing just to work alongside you with it, and being able to sort of being able to put up a few pinpoints on some of these locations, with all the various haunted areas of buildings and things, because you've scanned quite a few of the locations that we've investigated and been back to many times as well, some of them. So it's been really good to be able to go through the reports and go through the journals that we've written up through the years and actually list the activity, and that's apparent in some of the areas, and what we've found in those areas and what we've found in those locations. It's just documenting, and it's also archiving the paranormal research as well, and putting it out there, because it's fixed, it's kind of out there, and it's archived, which I love that idea.
Yeah, I call it digital preservation and promotion of our tourism industry, and dark tourism is taking off. In the States, it's a big thing. I was recently over in the US in September when my wife was having surgery. We were over there for a month, as you know, and I got to go on a ghost tour of St. Louis. Couldn't remember where I went for a minute there, but the biggest place, the best one that we got to go on to, was the Lemp Brewery.
Yes.
So, and we actually had experiences while we were on the tour itself, and the places that we explored with the ghost tour there. The gentleman that actually runs the tours, it's a big shout out to them, is from St. Louis Paranormal. His name's Mark Marriott. He's a doctor, and I think about 2 weeks after we actually left, he fell down some stairs in the Lemp Brewery itself. So that had lots of stories with it. But an extremely knowledgeable person. It'd be like you taking a group through the pump house or the lake house, because you've been there so many times and you're knowledgeable about the place. You can do your own tours.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we found with our events,
great.
Our public events and tours and stuff that we do, it just becomes easier and easier with each one, because you know the locations now, and you've been there so many times that you just learn you learn every corner of every room. It's amazing. So the events are becoming easier now. And some of the rest of the teams,
One,
well, they're finding it easy because they go there a lot and they hear me speaking about it a lot. And they're also doing their own research about locations. So they know it. So people can ask them questions and the information's out there. So,
yeah,
yeah, I think this whole spectral tourism thing, I think it's early days. I think but I think it's going to sort of expand and evolve into something quite big.
yes,
Because the world is
absolutely.
becoming smaller, and with the internet and all that, everything's becoming smaller. We're actually starting to network and link up, and there's that divide between countries isn't so great anymore. It's people are becoming closer.
No, that's right. The world's not as big as it was,
No, that's right.
which is in some ways is a good thing. In some ways, it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
One of the talking about giving public speech. One of the things that I hate doing is I actually hate public speaking. I really do. I do it, but I hate doing it. I was up visiting Marion at the prison one day during the week, and there was a bus up there, and they'd taken a group of people through for a tour. And I stood in her office, and I was listening to the guy that was leading the tour, and he was as boring as hell. And I said to Marion, I sort of joked to her, I says, I should go out and tell him some of the stories or things that we've experienced up here. And Marion, because you would have known Marion, obviously.
Yeah, I met her once. Yeah.
And Marion says, well, why don't you? And I said, why do I like my mouth here? And I said, okay. So she took me up and she called said everyone, this is Clint Lawson. He's paranormal investigator from Phoenix Paranormal. He'd actually like to tell you some of the things that they've experienced up here. The minute I started speaking, people were interested in what we'd experienced firsthand instead of what somebody had actually read. And it was great. It sort of felt like the Pied Piper. Doesn't happen often, but it was great.
Mm. Oh, there's certainly an awareness, and people are getting into it now, and the people are starting to learn, which is something that makes me very happy, is that people are starting to show an interest and actually ask questions. Like they'll watch their television programs, and they'll enjoy all the TV programs and all that and all the hype, but they've learned enough now that they'll start asking questions themselves, and they'll see something on television, they'll go, I don't think I believe that really happened. I think this could be something else. And they'll start looking into other alternatives. And sometimes they can debunk their own TV shows. They can debunk the shows that they love. And they're actually learning and evolving. So with people like us doing things and you doing things and the other teams around the place, around the world, all putting stuff out there on social media and investigating, people are starting to gather all this information and absorb it all, and just they're soaking it all in, and they're sifting out all the weeds and all the rubbish, and they're starting to think for themselves. What makes sense to them? What makes sense to them? What's making sense? What kind of fits in with what they believe in at that point? And people are starting to work things out for themselves.
Yep.
And I think it's brilliant.
Yep.
I think it's absolutely fantastic.
I love doing these investigations, and we did it, if you recall, when we investigated the Oxford, and we had a light coming up in one of the photos, and we finally managed to find out what it was.
Yeah,
I love going through and actually thinking that we've seen something and actually being able to debunk it, because it means we are doing our jobs.
Yeah.
And that is as big a thing as being able to say, yes, we've captured this EVP, we've captured this image. We've witnessed this occurrence, but being able to say, we thought we saw something like this. After a close examination, we actually managed to pull it apart, and it wasn't what we thought it actually was. We wish it was, but it wasn't. It puts a little bit more legitimacy and honesty into organisations like ours. There are others that won't do that sort of thing, who are sent it for the name and that sort of stuff. For me, it's never been about being famous, because I've never wanted to be famous. I've never wanted to be in the front row of the movies. I'm happy to sit at the back,
Yeah. Oh, same. I don't like being in front of a camera. Even now, I'd rather have.
And I'm a photographer.
My screen. I'd rather have my screen off. I prefer to be behind the camera instead of in front of it. So it's just, I don't know. But sometimes when you're, I guess you're the founder of a group, you've got to sort of put yourself out there again. But
Yes.
Anyway, we've got another guest that's in the waiting room that's actually ready to come on now. He made it. It's a
Hey,
guy who's always also a bit of an influence on me, and inspired me to do a lot of things. I want to talk about this guy for a little bit. He was a big inspiration with me writing my first book. He wrote a book way back called Spooked, and that inspired me. And he actually pushed me along on that to write my own book. So I gave it a go, and I've been writing books since. And so yeah, I big ups to this guy. So yeah, waiting in the waiting room. I'm going to let him in now. We've got from Strange Occurrences in Wellington. He's your friend and mine. It's he's got his camera off and he's got his sound muted.
Yeah,
Hey James,
I'll take my glasses off.
here we go.
I
We're
don't
here.
need to see you guys that closely.
That was
hey, James, how are you, mate?
running.
Look, I haven't done any of this video meeting stuff since been COVID. Seriously, it's not my world. So this is the first time in like 5 years I've done one of these.
Yeah, I know. They're pretty basic. It's just three blokes having a natter.
That's the name of the podcast, Three Blokes. I like it.
He's got his own little microphone and all that. Very good. So how you been,
Yeah.
James?
Good. I left my little microphone at work, so I went downstairs to the band room and nabbed this SM58.
That's cool.
You can tell the professionals when they can tell you the make and model of the mic they're using, and I'm just using earbuds.
No. So just bring you up to speed. Clint and I have been discussing, his spectral tourism venture that he's been doing, scanning buildings and all that, and how he got into it as a young boy, getting up, growing into it, and we touched on the Phoenix paranormal that he was in for a few years, and also we know that he investigated with you, James, quite a few times as well, with your Strange Occurrences Society. So yeah, we wanted to have a bit of a reminisce about the old days, and as I said earlier on this, Strange Occurrences and Phoenix were around way before I started Haunted Auckland, and so there were two groups there that were going that kind of inspired me to get my little team going as well, because I was seeing other people doing it, and I thought, yeah, I need to get back into doing a team thing again. So a bit of an inspiration, you too. So I appreciate that. So yeah, I wanted to have a bit of a chat about some of the early investigations and your thoughts and opinions and all that. So okay, so what's one that stood out to you guys? Actually, no, I'm going to throw one at you. It's the old Fever
Here we go.
Hospital, the Fever Hospital in Wellington. Now, back in 2017, James, you managed to get me in there with you, and we had a wander around the old building. It's pretty derelict, falling to bits, but we got in there and had a wander around.
Yeah, so I've been in there a few times, and I know I've been in there with you, Mark, and Clinton, and with our own team, with other guests at various times. And look, every time we've been there, something a bit oddball has happened. And that's, as you know, not usual with sites. I mean, most of the time you go there and nothing unexplained occurs. With that Fever Hospital, it's now the Wellington SPCA, which is in the main part of the hospital. And there is the old nurses' home, which is on the south end of a separate building. Now, the old nurses' home is still not in use, and they haven't been up there for maybe a year, but as far as I know, it's semi-derelict. It's a construction site. Officially, it's not in use because it's unsafe, and the SPCA have no use for it, and they don't really think that's a good use of their money to do it up either, because it would be very expensive. So it's kind of standing there. And, I don't know. I think, Mark, we wandered around in there and took some photos at some point during the day when the SPCA director person was there with us. And I remember she was quite a paranormal person as well, which was really cool. Clinton, when you and I were there, I can't recall if we got into that nurse's home, because I've only really been in there 3 times.
Yeah, no, I don't think I went into the nurse's home with you. No, we're in the main structure, if I recall.
Yeah, they're not supposed to let anyone into the nurse's home because it's an unsafe kind of construction site. There are holes in the floor and there are stuff lying around that can fall on you. But the main building is pretty interesting in itself in that it has had various functions, and one of its functions was the Wellington Polytechnic Music School for a while. And I know that none of the musicians who used to practice in practice rooms up there late at night really like being there. And counts of doors banging and closing, sounds like someone in there, but and a number of people reported that. And every time I've been there, it's mainly happened kind of quite late at night. We've been start to go home and packed up our gear, or pulled down our video cameras, all packed up and ready to leave, waiting for the security guard to come in. And then things have kind of kicked off. And I don't know what it is. I'm not going to say it's haunted, but it's always been interesting. That there's a definite vibe about it.
Yeah.
And it seems to kick off around midnight, 1 a.m., maybe later.
I remember you telling me a story about one of the doors slamming.
Yeah, we had a good. We'd been there for quite a long time, and we're down to me and Rob Patrick. Patrick was working as a security guy, and Rob is similar work. So I felt I was pretty safe with those two guys.
Mm.
They're not big, but they can handle themselves, which is always handy in some of these places. If people turn up who aren't supposed to be there, as you know. So it's all getting a bit bored. We're getting a bit boring. We're talking about cars and Top Gear and that kind of stuff. We're upstairs in the nurse's home because we lost interest in the investigations. We've been here 8 hours when it's happened. And there's this almighty bang from downstairs, so we can feel it through the floor, like the building kind of shook. That. So we looked at each other. We went down. We went around. We couldn't find anybody, and we found this door that we'd been using. That had been closed, and it somehow banged hard. So we went out and we started looking around outside the building because we expect there's going to be someone there who's coming. So we're walking out, and we get a few meters away from the door, which Patrick had closed behind us. And it banged again, really, really loudly, and we all just about jumped out of our skin. And at that moment, so I honestly can't remember what we did after that, but we did a bit more investigation, but we didn't go back into that building. I don't have the investigation report, but we looked around and tried to find what it was that made the door bang, or whether it was some other sound that we'd heard. And we couldn't find anything. And then Rob had to go home, maybe. So it's down to Patrick and me, and we decided we weren't going back in there. It just had a bad feeling, so we went around the whole rest of the site, inside out, through the neighborhood. And then we waited for the security guys to come. And they turned up. And kind of surprised that we've been in that building because they weren't really in there anyway. They wanted to check it around and look it up. While they were there, we dived in, grabbed our cameras, and got out. We're kind of afraid to go back in there. That's not a usual thing for investigation. It's kind of the first for me. But we did not want to go back into that building.
And the Hawke's Bay Opera House. That was another one.
Fun times.
Been there a few times. I think we've probably done it each time.
Yep.
I don't think we've been there independently of you guys with Phoenix. And those were the days, weren't they?
We had some good people and some great experiences in the place. It's a beautiful place to visit and investigate.
How many glasses have you had, James?
Well, I've got a glass of wine here. I've got a glass of red wine. And I've also got some really quite nice Japanese whiskey, and I'm not going to mix the two up. I'm going to finish my wine.
Yeah, that's what they all say, mate.
But I picked the whiskey up, and the glass coaster kind of stuck to it and dropped, which was what the noise was. Explained.
Debunked.
Not an off-camera poltergeist type noise. I saw it. It happened.
It was a spirit.
Debunked. It wasn't.
It was a spirit, and a whining spirit.
It was 48% alcohol spirit. Or was it 50? I think it's 50 this one.
Oh, that's the sort of spirit I don't mind messing around with.
48% proof.
Yep.
Oh, we like 100% proof, mate. That's way.
100 proof. It's pretty close to that. 100 proof is about 60% alcohol, which is Anyway, we're not here to talk about whiskey. No. What I appreciate, you mentioned earlier, Mark, that what Phoenix and the Strange Occurrences were doing kind of inspired you to get back into doing the team investigations. Yeah, we started Strange Occurrences in a bit of a vacuum, and we were approached by another group who I don't want to really talk about them because they didn't make themselves very popular, but they basically wanted me and Denise, but they didn't want the rest of our team to join their team, and we weren't having that. We just got started and we were just getting a feel for things. And then Clinton showed up. We hadn't done anything much. And Clinton had this group of people together, and he was kind enough to approach us and say hi, in a friendly way, and invite us to join in investigations. And I think the first one we did together, the two of us, two teams, was the Napier Prison, which was a really good investigation. We did a bunch of other investigations in the sort of lower half of North Island. And you guys came down to Inverlochie Art School about, I think, maybe the first time we investigated it, two teams together. And that was really cool.
Yep, I had that photo.
Yep, there's a big photo of the
I had here.
At the front. Yeah.
Is that with the car, or was it sitting on the steps?
I think
sitting on steps.
We're all sitting on the steps.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The one with Rob's big SUV was just a publicity photo we did later on, years later. But no, there's a whole group of us. And we enjoyed the company of Clinton and his team. I mean, they're nice people. And what I really enjoyed, and Denise would reflect this, and the others in the team as well, nice bunch of people. We're going to places we wouldn't normally go to. We're meeting people that we wouldn't otherwise run into. And that kind of social aspect of paranormal investigation, when you've got a group of people, you don't really know each other, but you've got a common interest and a common objective. And, it's good fun. And it was social and it was pleasant, and there wasn't any politics. Between Phoenix and Strange Occurrences, we all got on. There was no fighting, there was no jealousy, there was no rivalry. We just cooperated.
We were a big team at the end of the day.
Yeah,
we were.
And that cooperation remained until you guys gradually sort of wound up, and a bit later after that we started to pull back from investigations a little. But there was a period of a few years there, I think, where we did a lot of investigations. We all got on well with the Strange Occurrences, got on well with the Phoenix guys. It was always good fun meeting you and team. I remember Buzz.
Buzz Murphy. Yep.
Buzz Murphy.
Angelo Cicelli.
Yep.
I remember Angelo Cicelli and so forth.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Buzz was definitely one of those guys that you kind of want around, if things get a bit nasty, a bit gnarly.
Yeah. 8 foot tall, 250 kilos with dark glasses, day or night.
Yeah, and kind of Mohican and bare arms and tattoos. That's how I remember it. Roughly.
He was actually a manager up the Rivertaka prison back in the day. I don't know what he's doing now, but he was back then.
But made you feel confident about being in places.
I remember we investigated the Red Lion Tavern in Wanganui.
Yeah.
And were you on that one with us, James?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Yes.
These came up.
That's one. And one of the barmaids, for want of a better word, had been murdered several months before. They'd located the body and that sort of thing, and they wanted to see if there could be anything possibly hanging around. What they neglected to tell us was that we could investigate upstairs, but they still kept the pub and the music and everything going downstairs.
That's right. All the band playing, I think.
And two of our female investigators were wandering downstairs and seeing what they could see. And I've always remembered this because Buzz turned up and he had his jeans on, cut-off T-shirt and his dark glasses. And some of the patrons were starting to approach the young ladies. And he just stood there with this glare. And the minute they got close, they turned around and took off like nobody's business. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. Because he's a big boy. He's a big fella.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you and I are pretty much midgets, right?
Oh, hell yeah, yeah. Well, I'm 5'7", mate. What are you like?
Yeah, well, I'm 5'7".
5'5"?
I used to be 5'7". I've shrunk a bit.
Just a little, mate. Just a little.
Yeah, maybe half an inch.
One of the things that I always remember about you, James, and the fact that I've always called you Jimmy for some reason, I don't know why.
That's all right.
And you said to me one day, we were on an investigation, we were having a chat, and you said something that stuck in my head, and I've always used it since. And that is, a skeptic isn't somebody who doesn't believe. A skeptic is somebody who wants more evidence. Or something to that effect.
I don't remember saying that. But
I do.
It sounds like something you'd say.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I'll take it. It sounds good. I'll take it. I don't.
Put it on the shirt. Put it on a T-shirt.
Yeah, well,
I have used that with so many people over the years, and it is, out of all the people that I've met in my life, mate, that is probably one of the phrases that has just absolutely stuck with me, and I've worked with it because it just seemed like such a wise thing to say at the time. And it's not something that would come out of my mouth, out of my head, without being told in the first place.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't remember saying it, but I wish you reminded me of it a bit earlier. It's quite good, and we could have put it in my book.
Write a sequel, mate.
Well, I haven't really got anything to add to it. This is the thing, and like that book, What We Wrote, came out in 2011. We wrote it in 2010. And you've learned a bit since then, but basically everything that ended up in the book, I still stand by it. It's basically still how I think about the paranormal, and nothing much has changed. And there's been a few experiences we've had since, but they haven't really changed the fundamental thinking. So all that would have happened is the book would have got a little bit thicker, but probably wouldn't have had any more real content in it or anything much more to say apart from a few more accounts to add pages to it. So yeah, I'm proud of that. I think that was the peak of Strange Occurrences. And we sailed on that wind for a little while, and then we had a bit of a resurgence of some younger people joining the team. Investigation, and most people have since gone overseas. And that's how it's gone.
And between you, like some of the during the investigations that you guys have done together, what would be an experience that has remained with you in your memories? You know, what interesting experiences have you had there together?
Yours, Clinton.
Oh, thanks, mate. One of them would have been for me investigating the Hawke's Bay Opera House, and it was around about 11:30 at night. And there was three groups of people, because I think we'd had something like about 9 or 10 people on the investigation. We were given a little bit of hard word for having that many people on investigation. So, well, it's the Opera House, come on. But at one stage during the evening, a group from downstairs, I think it was actually, might have been you, James, or on the next level up, but someone was saying, we can smell a fragrance of roses down here. And then about a minute later, someone on the next level was saying, hey, no, we can smell it here. We can smell it here as well. And who is down the one? So we can't smell it down here now. and then a minute or so after that, we're up in the gods, and we could smell it up there, and the people in the bottom 2 levels couldn't smell it anymore. It was as if some whether it's paranormal or not, we don't know. It was an interesting occurrence. It was a strange occurrence. But to be able to,
did
yeah, we could, to be able to, you could think like we were tracking something by odor. No, I've never done it before. I know that it's happened in the past, but I've never come across it. But it was just a really interesting occurrence, just fit in to go with the rest of the evening. Being able to smell this fragrance. Someone saying that they smell it elsewhere, and every time someone in one area said that they smelled it, someone in another area said, "Oh, we can't smell it now. It's gone." I don't know. Were you there? If you were there early in the evening, James, this is on the first investigation, mate. And I know it was Buzz, myself, and I can't remember who else it was, but we actually witnessed a shadow, a darkness moving along a wall and going in front of the 2 glass windows and the doors, which is on the 2nd level. And once it got to them, the silhouette was so dark it actually looked like the outline of a male head. And then it went toward the fire exit and disappeared. But that was witnessed by 3 of us, possibly even 4. I just can't remember who the other 2 people were at that stage.
I don't think that I was there on that occasion. I don't remember that. I vaguely remember the rose smelling thing was probably one of the people who couldn't smell it. But I recall that was discussed. I don't recall being in the theatre when Buzz was there, but this was a while ago, so I could be mistaken. Or else you were there and we turned up later, something like that. I have no recollection of that, or I certainly didn't experience it. But that place, you've got not only the theatre, but the adjoining building with the dance floor in it.
Yes.
It's also a pretty interesting space, and I think that can accommodate 10 people between 2 buildings, and we kind of split up, rotated and stuff like that, and that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, in some instances it was kind of hard to think about it, because that was back in 2009. Would you believe it?
Yeah.
We were both a lot younger then. But some of the experiences and that sort of thing, and because we had so many people in different areas, I know the ballroom you're talking about. I've actually scanned that as well, and that's a fantastic room. That really, really, really is. There's a few little interesting events happen when we were in it, but were they paranormal? I don't know. They were unusual. I'm quite happy to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that ballroom building. It had. I remember the first time we went there, we went up some stairs and there was a locked door. Fine, we can't go there. The next time we came, and that door was mysteriously unlocked, and we went up. There was the remains of like an old recording studio up there. Like they'd dismantled it. And they'd pulled some of the lining off the wall. There was this old drawing of a man in profile that actually I think it was a Maori figure with local drawn on the wall behind the lining. Took some very careful photographs of it because I thought that was pretty interesting. That was probably drawn there when the building was being built, or the room was up, and then covered over, and then it was exposed. And that would have been demolished or taken apart a short time later because they were taking out that room area. But that kind of stuff, when the history of a building is momentarily revealed, I find it really interesting, and one of the things I most enjoy about paranormal investigation, I like buildings, I like history, and I like little details of history that you get to see, because we've had good access. We've been able to access areas of the building that are not public, and you get to crawl around in some unusual spaces and see stuff that people wouldn't normally see, and what I really like is being in a space which has a history. You're a while in there, you've been quiet mostly, there are times when you're just quiet and you can kind of imbibe the building, the feel of it, the ambience. And I think to some extent the history sometimes reveals itself to you in various ways. Some of those ways are not necessarily material. I think there are kind of echoes, and if you're in the right mood, if you're in the right frame of mind, and I don't know, the planets are in the right alignment or something, or the weather's behaving itself, you get a sense of past and maybe the future of what has gone on in there. It's mysterious and kind of unquantifiable, and that's something I really enjoy about paranormal investigation, just spending that time in a place and kind of imbibing it like I'm about to experience this whiskey. This is Japanese, it's affordable, but it's very intense. And
Paranormal booze review.
the trick with the smelling this is you don't want to take a big whiff of it because it's dry. You just pass your nose.
Mark, have you got some new sponsors, mate?
That is really nice. I feel like lost in translation, what's his face doing the whiskey sample in Japan.
Yeah.
Kind of hoping I might get a job like that out of this. They could whisk me off to Tokyo for a week and I could experience Japanese whiskey with a hint of the paranormal. I'd be up for that.
Well, we've got a Japanese student currently living with us from Tokyo, so you might have some contacts. I'll let them know.
Yeah. I mean, if they want a sort of older, mature male with Scottish blood, I'm Scottish, happy to go to.
Japan's high on
out
my
there
list as well for the paranormal. I'd love to go there. Haven't been there before. I'd love to. The stories.
They make damn good movies, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
The best.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
they do the best horror movies.
I mean, the first horror movie that really sort of genuinely creeped me out was the original Grudge.
Yeah, I was about to say the Grudge.
Yeah,
and the Grudge too, but those are good movies.
Yeah, not the Hollywood ones, but the original
the Japanese
ones without the soundtrack.
Yes.
There was no music. It was just atmosphere, and there was no music to sort of scare you or sort of build up some sort of fear. It was all just silence. They were just talking and silence in between. It was brilliant. It was just genius.
Yep.
And I remember sitting in my she wasn't my wife at the time, but I was sitting in her apartment on the couch. She was out, and I was just watching The Grudge by myself in the dark, and I was genuinely creeped out. And that doesn't happen very often.
It's one of Denise's favourites as well. My wife Denise, we didn't get married until 2008. 2008, I did get this right, 2008. But I mean, Denise is a long-term member and has been on very nearly as many investigations that I've been on. Plus a lot of private house ones that we've done. Sometimes her and I would go, and or we might take one more person along with us. It's a big and The Grudge, she thinks it's one of the best horror films. So yeah, I think a paranormal whiskey tour of Japan. I better cover that logo on the glass in case you can read it, but this is a fine Japanese whiskey.
Okay, let's go out and buy a lot of tickets.
In Japan,
we can do this.
Yeah.
Road trip.
Scotland, Japan. I'm up for it, man.
Let's do it.
All right. I'll get my tickets. Let me know when you're there.
If I win Battle of the Bands, Steer Pipe will be going there, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think I want someone younger.
Yeah. Oh well, I think anything you guys want to ask me or anything you want to talk about? I'll put links, Clint, for your Spectral Tourist thing.
Appreciate that, mate.
I'll put a bit of effort in there for you.
Really?
Yeah.
Thing, really?
Your thing, your little thing that you're doing.
I've been there a couple of times when Clinton's been doing the photography, the 3D mapping. It's pretty interesting.
It is, isn't it?
He's actually quite good at it.
Yeah.
And it's good that what I like about what he's doing is, yeah, he's doing the paid commercial jobs, but he's done a lot of unpaid work for historic sites and stuff like that, which, really mapping them out in great detail in 3D just adds something and allows people to appreciate those locations from wherever they are in the world if they have a phone. And I think, good on you for actually doing that work.
I mean, can you imagine the work he could do if you sent him over to Scotland or the UK and just travel around scanning those buildings? I mean, all the iconic
now you're
ones.
just teasing. Now you're teasing,
imagine
mate.
that.
Bloody hell.
Scans of Chillingham Castle and 30 East Drive and all the big ones. All the big ones,
I so need a sponsor.
Nobody's doing that.
No, they're not. And this is actually a conversation that I've had with a couple with some investigators, etc., offshore. I've seen what I'm doing. To my knowledge, I don't know if it's been done before. And even speaking with Metaport, who are the people that create the machinery that I use and host the plans and make billions of dollars that I don't see any of, to have they've said to me when I told them what I was doing, they said, I don't think anybody in the world is actually doing exactly what you are doing. I created Virtual Tourism New Zealand as being the only website in New Zealand where every tourism property, whether it's accommodation, venue, historic buildings, icons, has no photos on our website, just virtual tours. And they said to me, no one else in the world is actually doing exactly what you're doing there. So what I've done is I've just made it grow by doing Spectral Tourism. And it's great. Remember we investigated the Firth Tower Museum a few years back. Museum? The Firth Tower Museum in Matamata.
Well, you two guys did that.
Yeah, we did that, yeah.
Yes, yep. And so I'd actually already scanned it, and Cyclone Gabriel came and actually cracked the back wall of the main tower, which is about 4 floors. So it's currently not open.
Oh.
I was actually contacted to see if I could get all the plans and that sort of thing for it. And I said, well, no, I've scanned it. So we currently have the only digital record, where people can walk through it until they can hopefully ever get it repaired. It's the same as the Napier prison. I scanned all the Napier prison. And now that it's locked up, permanently closed, it is still online for people to actually go through and experience. So we've actually, and this is I am proud of what I've achieved. I just don't want to sound conceited about it, but digitally preserving that part of our history and being able to promote it still, even now, especially now that they're closed, is a big boon to our society as a whole. When COVID came, we were scanning, listen to me, third person, my army of three. I was scanning museums as well as real estate, but I was scanning museums. There are people that had never actually been in a museum until they actually looked at the scan. The Howard Historic Village, which will always be my pride scan, I think it was in about 12 to 18 months, had been viewed nearly 400,000 times from around the world because people were in lockdown and people were looking at all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And
have you scanned all the buildings
then
there?
it wasn't. Half of them. Yeah. I believe that they may have a sponsor for me to go back and scan the rest. I'm hoping that's going to take place this year. That'd be really, really good. It'd be good to have the whole set. It's like, collector's cards. I've got all the buildings now. It's great.
Pokemon. Collect them all.
Pokemon. But the Puanui Homestead has been the one that's actually been viewed more than anything else.
Yeah.
It's really great. Just actually, I was just thinking of a story. Just listening to what James was saying before, about slamming door up at the Fever Hospital. Remember a few months back, I scanned a house in Thames, and I couldn't open the front door. And I'd scan it, and I tried ringing the real estate agent and said, "How do I open this door, mate? Because it just won't move." And I turned around, and the door was wide open behind me. It was locked when I got there. I couldn't move the damn thing. I couldn't unlock it. And that's when I rang you, Mark, and said, "Hey, mate, you're not going to believe." I had to tell somebody.
Yeah.
In this house, and a locked door that just would not open. And I tried. I must have tried 5 to 10 minutes, and turned around and rang the real estate agent. And he said, "Yeah, just turn it, lift it, and do this." And I turned around, and the door was wide open behind me. I nearly cracked myself, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I would too. That's really freaky.
Yeah, no, I could hear the excitement. You rang me in real time, pretty much as it was happening, and
Yeah.
I could hear that you were excited about it. So your reaction said a lot. Yeah,
I'm thinking, oh yeah, what's next? I've worked in a number of doing what I do because I have to scan on my own. I can't have anybody else in the building. Gives me a very, very unique perspective while I'm scanning. I've got to be quiet. I've got to be out of sight of the scanner. I mean, I told you I had a experience when I did the Pump House Theatre up in the catwalk of footsteps walking along there, and because I'm the only one in there, I get to I know that it wasn't me, and I know no one else was in there as well. So I had the best job in the world because I can go into these places. I'm on my own. I've been doing this long enough now where I don't panic. I don't get scared or excited as easily as I used to, which is not a bad thing. But yeah, going into some places, yes. But that door in that house, I will never forget that, mate. I thought, and you're the first person I thought it could ring in. Oh, who am I going to ring? Mark, because my wife was saying, yeah, that's right. I rang my wife and she said, not every place you go into has got some sort of event going on. It's me. It usually does. No, it doesn't really, but it was a nice thought.
Yeah.
You reminded me of Napier Prison, Clinton. I think it was the first time we investigated there. And it was quite late at night. And I don't know, I think we're just about to stop doing what we're doing, but we're watching the cameras that you had set up. And there was something moving down the corridor towards the kitchen, kind of side to side down the corridor and walking its way towards the kitchen. And I remember earlier on, the rules, no running, like we don't run, we don't panic. But I know when you saw that on the monitor, you went for it, you ran. And I was struggling to keep up with it. But when we got there, we found out what it was. It was a very, very large hedgehog. Just somehow got into the building and was heading for the kitchen.
Yes, I do remember that. Yes.
The friggin' hedgehog was damn near the size of a football. I mean, it was a big one. And
it was a mutant, eh? It was massive.
Oh, yeah, no. We'd seen it earlier in the evening, and Denise and I had seen it outside the fence. And then, we caught it. We caught up with it in the kitchen, and then we caught it in the box or something. We put it out the front door. It's like, you're free. You can go. Your internment is over. But it was a kind of funny moment that I do remember. For all money, it looked like some, the infrared, the heat of the hedgehog. It looked like some weird sort of orb going along the floor up the corridor.
Yeah, what the hell is that? No, I do. I'd actually forgotten that, but I remember that now. I remember one of the earlier investigations that were up there, and I think it was actually one of the first one, probably the first one that Harley Jones had actually come on.
Oh yeah.
And we tried opening the door to the prison wardens, and right in the middle, if you there's one area, and we tried to get this door open, and it wouldn't open. And so we're wandering around out the back in the cage where they do the exercise equipment, and to look up, and I don't remember Harley much, but he had his goatee and his and I looked up in the window of this guardhouse, and I nearly shat myself because all I saw was this face in there, and it was Harley. And I said, because he had this like demonic look about him at the stage, the goatee and all that. And how in the hell did you? What? He says, I just touched the door, and he said it just popped open for me. But all I remember, and there's just this look on his face. I just touched the door and it opened. It's like, it's not a big deal. It just happened.
Funny, Harley had one of those kind of gaunt faces that in the right light would.
Yeah. hard case. One of the other stories I'd heard from, and we tried debunking at one stage, and that was one of the women who used to work at the Napier prison, and she was a take no bullshit kind of woman. She was a hard case, and you remember the toilets that have got the half doors on them. Well, she was in the main. It's basically outside. Once you get in the main area itself, there's loads of toilets, but they don't go all the way to the ground. The doors don't.
Oh yeah.
So, and the original was yep. And she said she was sitting in there, and she watched the latch on the door unlock while she is sitting there. And most people are, what the hell? First thing she said, and I've never forgot, she says, "Will you piss off? I'm trying to have a moment."
Yeah.
And so we tried doing everything to find out how we did. We tried stepping around the corner and using wire to unlatch it, and we couldn't get the purchase off. We even tried a magnet. That's how desperate we got to find out what the truth was behind it, and we could not find out what happened to that lock. But she wasn't the type. She wasn't looking for publicity. Marion actually made her tell us. She wasn't actually going to tell us, but Marion said, "No, you tell him." So yeah, a lot of legitimacy through a lot of the stories up there.
That's the thing about something like a prison. I mean, those little small rooms, those toilets, the cell rooms, the showers, whatever, and they've absorbed a lot of human emotion over a period of time. And that is an old prison at Napier. It's New Zealand old, you know?
Yeah.
Not old for Europe, but it's old for New Zealand. And you think of people being shut up in there in various states of mind and desperation. And you got to think it kind of absorbs those emotions in some way.
It's a sponge.
You go into those cells and you can kind of feel it, you know. If you open yourself up, it's just kind of knock back on your intellect a little bit and just back and open yourself up to the atmosphere and the history of those rooms. And it's interesting.
I remember two experiences from up at the Napier prison. One of them was at about 2:30 in the morning, and it was you, me, and Danny Berry in one of the wings, and we were, and it was 2:00 in the morning. It was 2:00 in the morning. It was a still night. There was no breeze, no sound coming from outside, and I turned to Danny and I said, "Did you hear that?" And she says, "It was a little girl giggling." And I think that you may have heard it as well. We didn't get it recorded, unfortunately, but it was the most unnerving thing to hear in a prison was a child giggling. Because when the prison was created, it didn't just house criminals; it housed children who had no homes, housed mentally ill people, that sort of thing. If they couldn't explain it, they put them in the Napier prison. But I've always remembered that happening because it was so clear. And all I said to Tanda, "Did you hear that?" And she says, "Yeah, it sounded like a little girl giggling." And that was actually more unnerving than some of the other experiences that I'd had up there over the years. I also remember being in the infirmary, and I think this might have actually been the first or second investigation. Wooden floor, and I'm sitting in the seat going to do just doing an EVP session. And this is back in the days when we had the old walkies, James, if you remember carrying those around.
Yeah.
Yep. And when cell phones were really expensive. And sitting in there and hearing footsteps directly in front of me in this room that's about 10 feet long by about 6 feet wide, and then stopping in front of me. And I jumped on the walkie and said, "Is anybody around here? Where are you guys?" And whoever's on the other walkie said, "No, we were all over in the canteen or the cafeteria, or whatever is on the other side of the prison." And then they started again, and they disappeared up the other end. It was one of the most awesome experiences I've actually had, because there was nobody else around. No one to verify it, but no one else around to cause the noise either. That prison has just got so many stories in it, so much activity. It beggars belief, really, it does.
So what's the status of it now? Is it completely closed up?
Completely closed up about 2 years ago. The last time I was talking to Tora about it, he was really, really gutted, because Marion passed away a few years ago from cancer. But now it's actually owned by Land Information New Zealand, who, from what I heard, are looking at doing it up and opening it as a tourist attraction. I think would have been better to leave it as it was and have that as a tourist attraction. I would love to get in there again and to rescan the place as one big scan. I don't know if I'm going to get that opportunity. Hey, James, do you remember going to Pukeora Estate in Waipak?
Yes. Pukeora.
That was the one up, the old Fever Hospital up on the hill. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a kind of winery there. And sure.
Sam Hill, they make the Sam Hill wines.
So there was accommodation, there was like a nurse's home kind of block, and then there was the old hospital. Yeah, I remember that investigation. That was pretty interesting.
That was a very, very interesting investigation, that one. It's the only time in the years and all the investigations that they worked together, if you don't mind me saying, that I've actually seen you shaking a little bit. I remember you went into the tunnels underground.
I'm not sure about that. I don't recall that. But I do recall going around the old hospital, and there was a ward that was like the children's ward, which was called there. Probably wasn't historically there, but it was one of those dark and stormy nights, and the wind was kicking off. The place. We spend a fair bit of time in the accommodation area, and so I think it's the hospital, the old hospital area. Something going on there. It was really interesting. There was some. Go ahead.
No, you go, mate. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, mate. Okay,
You lost it.
I am sorry, but I remember that when we got there, I got there first earlier in the afternoon and going around taking placement photos, and as we used to do with items that were around in different areas. And remember they had those white resin chairs that you'd buy for $8 from the warehouse.
That's what I was about to mention, actually. Yeah.
And moving them all to the one side, but going around later in the evening, and the chairs.
There was one in the middle of the corridor, like in the middle of the walkway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've been around filming and videoing. Maybe one of the investigation team moved it for whatever reason, I don't know, but nobody admitted to it. It just somehow shifted its position.
Yeah, well, I went. I don't know how it actually works, to be honest, but because we had cameras set up on those, because maybe we had shitloads of cameras. Oh wait, can I say that on here? A ton of night vision cameras. That's good. We had shitloads of cameras. Thank you. Yes, lots of cameras, and we had them aimed down that hallway, and we didn't see anybody else. Didn't see anybody go down that hallway through, unless it was us with torches. But apart from that, nobody had actually gone down there in order to move one of those chairs. It's also wasn't the only area in the hospital where the chair was moved. I think there was at least one or two other locations where chairs have been put into doorways that we had moved on the initial walk around. It was a very, very interesting place. I'd love to go back, love to do a revisit and see what goes on there, see what happens up there. I don't think we've got much chance of getting up there now.
I think
because it is actually...
It's an operational business. It's a winery, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So they're probably...
they make the Sam Hill wines. Yeah.
Well, I think they were just getting going when we got there. And
yes.
Over. Yeah. Anyway, I like that venue. It was up on a hill, and being sort of up on a hill in fresh air, it used to be a tuberculosis hospital, didn't it?
Yes.
Because fresh air was the only cure.
The first time, before we actually did the investigation, I went up there. I'd done another investigation somewhere, and I was working, and I stopped in at the Pukekohe Hospital on the way over to the Hawke's Bay for the day, and I've been told about it, and so I wanted to go and find. So I went and knocked on the door into the nurses' wing, which is a very interesting shaped building, lovely old building. And I went up and I'm knocking on the door, and no one's answering, and I'm standing by a room with a window on it, and I'm knocking even more and saying, "Hello, is anybody there?" And nobody's saying yes, but I heard a woman giggling. I thought, "What's this?" I'm knocking there, and I heard it giggling again. Nobody answered the door, and I'm thinking, "Oh, if you're not going to enter the door, bug here." So I got in the car and started continuing driving over toward Napier, and the phone rings, and the guy that owns the place rang me, returned my call, and he says, I can't remember his name now, from Pukekohe. He says, "You rang?" And I said to him, "Yeah, I have just been up there and knocking on the door, and but no one is." I heard a woman laughing up there, and said, "No one's they're not answering the door." He says, "Look," he said, "there's only one woman up there, and that is my mother, and she is in Wellington." I said, "Okay." So when they approved us to go in, and I went and had a decent wander around, the room that I'd been standing outside of had the window covered, so I couldn't see anything inside. But once I got around to the other side, it was all full of things like hospital beds and chairs and all this sort of stuff. People couldn't get in there, but that was where the giggling was coming from, and that was was one of the rooms in the nurses' wing.
You probably told me about that, but I didn't really recall it. Because I didn't really feel anything in that building, but it was the main hospital that got me. The thing is with the security cameras, you have them, and we never really recorded anything on them, but what they were kind of useful for was like debunking stuff. Like, you sort of knew, well, okay, nobody went down there, or nobody could have got there without being picked up on the cameras, so you know that no one in the team or anybody else was there at a time when a certain thing happened. And we found that in that fever hospital. We had cameras all over it when that door banged, and we didn't have a camera specifically on the door, but we couldn't have got in the building without being picked up by one of our cameras. So it debunked the idea of there being someone loose in the building that wasn't one of us.
Yeah.
Out of the building, or anything like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Absolutely. And I mean, you two guys, you're both led or are leading investigation teams that were very active.
Yeah.
Clinton, I know that you've got the gift of the gab, and you're quite able to sort of talk your way into place, approach people, and kind of connect with them, and actually get these investigations to happen. And Mark, you've been the same with how you call now. What is it?
What?
Anyway, never mind. You guys.
Are you saying I'm charismatic?
Well,
no, I don't think you're saying that.
No, I didn't use the word charismatic.
Oh, okay.
What I meant was you can relate to people and chat with them and kind of get on side with them and get into a place.
Yeah, I want to learn. I'm interested in hearing the stories.
There's not that many people can do that.
Mm.
And this is where investigation groups stand or fall, in that you need somebody who can. It's the same with bands. You need someone in the band who can kind of get gigs.
Mm.
Yeah.
Someone who can rock up and talk to the manager or whoever and kind of get the band through the door. It's the same deal. You've got to be able to relate to people. And this is where, you guys, and to a lesser extent, Strange Occurrences have been reasonably successful in that we've been able to get into places.
Mm.
And there's a bit of an art to that, right? It doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
Well, it comes with reputation and also trust. Trust is hard. You can't expect locations to just let anybody in.
Oh no,
when they don't know you. So you got to have a reputation. It's
it's
important.
got harder and harder. I don't know what it's like up your end of the country, but in Wellington, there was a point where everything just kind of shut down. Like there were earthquakes, so there were stickers. You couldn't go in this building, you couldn't go in that building.
Mm.
There was kind of workplace safety issues where you have to have like 2 staff members present at all times, and that sometimes meant you have to pay for someone to be there and pay their wages or whatever. That kind of put the mockers on Wellington for us a little bit, and that's when things started to wind down. And the other wind down was COVID. I mean, we literally stopped going to people's houses.
Yeah.
You just sort of could. And post-COVID, it stopped during COVID for obvious reasons, but post-COVID, we did investigations and we picked it up again. But it kind of wasn't the same.
Yeah.
It was still there, eh?
Yeah, it was still there. But I think the good days for strange occurrences in Phoenix were probably for about 2006 to 2009 or 10.
Yeah. That was the best times, right? They were the best ones.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. We enjoyed your company and the company of your team.
Likewise, mate. We worked very well together. You grounded us. And that's one thing that I've always respected and I always appreciated. And that is that you had been doing it longer than I had.
Well, not much.
Than anybody in Phoenix did. But you grounded us. You weren't airy-fairy. I mean, we know we've been on investigations with the people that have seen. I remember doing an investigation with someone who looked up at a shelf and said, "Oh, I can see a demon up there." And then we had 2 other newbies on the team, and straight away they could see the same thing as well. It was hyper. But the investigations that we were on, I really valued your advice. And you're a good mate, and we've kept in contact all these years, which has been great. You and Strange Occurrences was just good people to work with, down to earth people, and I really appreciated that personally.
Thank you. Yeah.
There was an honesty about it, wasn't there? I can honestly say that not a single television program has influenced me into doing what I'm doing now. But you two guys. You weren't para celebrities or anything like that. You weren't rich and famous.
Hang on,
you weren't on television.
I was a celebrity.
but you're down to earth.
Can I have your autograph?
Guys? You're down to earth teams. Just a small down to earth Kiwi teams, and those are the teams that inspired me and influenced me and got me excited. It was I was watching a few videos that I did see from you guys and some that Brad had put out. And it was that kind of that Kiwi sort of DIY, just cobble it together, make something happen. It's not all paranormal. It's just it was more about a bunch of people going out and investigating, and just filming it, and just whatever happens, and that's what I loved about it.
We're fairly. I mean, New Zealanders are fairly calm. Have you noticed with Americans, they panic?
They run and scream.
They're very loud.
Away from it.
Yeah.
They run away from things.
Yeah.
And they panic. And they get very loud and very vivacious, even a word. You know what I mean? They all start hollering.
Yeah.
And
they all talk like radio DJs.
Like, shut up, guys. Like, something's going on here. Shut up. Don't run away. If we're going anywhere, we're going towards it, not away from it. And let's just
why?
Well, put it this way: if someone's hoaxing you, like if they've rigged up something with some nylon and some stuff that's going to fall over, I've seen those American teams, and they go what? And they make a lot of noise and they run away. And by the time you get back, whoever was hoaxing you removed any evidence. Nylon has gone. Anything else is gone, and don't panic, don't run away. But the Americans, they panic. Oh, and that English woman who screamed a lot.
I mean, in reality, has anybody truly been hurt or injured by a ghost? Is there any real danger in ghosts?
I mean, running away from a ghost and falling down the stairs or whatever, or falling through a hole in the floor where the timber's rotten, or whatever that, or hitting your head on a beam as you're fleeing, that's where you're going to get injured. I mean, if there are paranormal entities, I don't think they can hurt you. I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah.
I may be put to the test, but I'm pretty sure they can't really hurt you.
Do you remember when I busted my wrist, James, and I busted a Napier prison?
No, I don't.
And I had a titanium plate put in. And I was up there one Saturday night, and there was one of these shows where they do the makeup and all that sort of stuff up there.
Oh, yeah.
And I was up there helping with security. And somebody was in the car park, and they were driving their car into the other cars in the car park. So one of the guys jumps on. He says, "Oh, Code Reds." Yeah, Hollywood Code Reds. So I jumped on. And it's Halloween. So I'm wearing thick-soled black shoes that made me about 6 inches taller than I was, and I needed all the help I could get. Black skivvy, black pants, and a black overcoat. So pretty much what I wore on most investigations. And I bolted out the door, jumped down the main stairs, two, three at a time. And all these people that were waiting to go into the prison watch it, and they all thought it was part of the act. And obviously, because remember the driveway, how it was, it's uneven and stuff, and the more I ran, I went ass over kite. And
in your scary glitter platform heels.
They were black. Come on.
Okay.
And I got up, my arm was like this, and one of the guys yelled at me, "I think it's broken." I said, "No, I think it's all right." and they said, "Oh, come sit on the boot of the car." And I said, I'm going to pass out in 10 seconds, and I had done. But one of the first things someone said to me, "Did you trip, or do you think you were pushed?" I tripped. I was running down a hill. The funny ending on this story is that when the ambulance came to pick me up, they had a newbie ambo driver, and one of the members from this group had gone down, and she was in a nurse's suit, and she had fake blood and all this sort of stuff on it. And this newbie ambo driver, what's happened? He thought there'd be like an explosion or something, right. And she had to calm him down.
It's makeup.
It's makeup. No, he thought, he's like, what had happened up there? What had happened up there? He actually panicked from what I was told.
But the guy over there with the platform shoes on, with the bone sticking out of his arm, that's real.
Yeah. It wasn't sticking out, thankfully, but if I bent it anymore, it would have been. I still have trouble when it rains.
Oh, okay. We've been nattering on for a long time. We could talk all night, I guess.
Run out of whiskey.
Yeah, we need a part two. So. We need to do a part two at some point. So we'll leave it.
Yeah, part two's good.
Just hang around for a couple of secs, guys, after this. Okay, so we'll say good night to everybody, and thanks a lot for watching. And thanks a lot, guys, James and Clint. It's been awesome talking to you. It's been great, sort of reminiscing and just going back into the ye olde days. I've learned a bit just by listening to you guys. So yeah, it's been great. So thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you again next time. So thanks a lot. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Cheers.
See you. Bye.